Good afternoon, Prajay. Great having you to our Inflection Point podcast. And just want to introduce Prajay here. We're joined with Prajay Patel, a true pioneer who had the foresight to think about AI and AI-led transformation while the rest of the world was trying to explore AI. I met Prajay almost 3 years back when he was leading the AI and overall technology transformations for Arabic Financial Services Organizations, which is part of ABC Bank out of Bahrain. And Prajay brings, I guess, 3 decades of experience in technology, IT transformation with a lot of different type of flavor of organizations. But the big one was Network International, which deals with $50 billion payment services organization. So as Arabic Financial Services, which deals with, 40, 50 different banks, banking as a service. He's in the helm of transforming another company, which is highly regulated organization called Smart Pension right now, based out of the UK. So really eager to learn from you, Prajay, and anything that we, through this discourse, helps others to learn from. It'll be great to learn from.
I think AI, for me, is more about imagination. What is it you can imagine? Because 5 years ago, it wasn't the case. It was all theoretical. But now, what you can imagine is actually is landing, right?
Yes.
So, I mean, there's a lot we can talk about AI. But 5 years ago, if you'd looked about engineering, it was theoretical. Can we do coding? Can we do this? And can we do that? Now, where we are today is that I can see engineers producing deliverables in 2 or 3 days, which used to take 2 teams 2 weeks. So it's just, we could go into this further, but I think AI is not something to fear. It's something to embrace. And that's what I thought 4 or 5 years ago, is we need to embrace it, because it was theoretical to a certain degree, but now we can see the fruits of that labor, because organizations are being catapulted into the atmosphere, because not only did they didn't fear AI, but they're embracing it.
I wanted to explore some of your pioneering thinking very early on, a little bit deeper. So remembering that, NexgAI worked with you at AFS to help augment this. When I remember when we went and spoke to you, you said, I don't want to jump into it. I want to really think about holistic view of what and how I can transform using AI, both in the everyday uses as well as game-changing use cases. And you gave us the task to think this holistically, work with you. So what was your thought process when you're saying, I don't want to just pick up a POC or a use case, which most of the organization tends to do? You set back and say, I want to really do a thorough understanding of what is the possibility before I want to jump. So what were going on in your at that time?
I think AI at the time was exploratory, but also in the region that we were working in, they were very
Skeptical, would you say?
skeptical about AI. So over the 8 or 10 months, I analyzed all the organization, and I tried to understand how they would benefit from AI. And what we did was we created a roadmap for every single department to show them what the art of the possible is. And with yourselves, and that's what we did. So you have, from a financial perspective and sales and so forth, they will recover costs, but also internally. And this is the one thing I think in the Middle East, maybe not just the Middle East, but generally, is that scalability was also related to adding resources. So in order to be scalable, you'd add 5 or 10 resources. But where we were on the cusp of was that no, you don't need to add resources. You need to add AI agents as part of the team. And I think that was the tipping point for me, is understanding that actually if you have rudimentary tasks, all of these can be catered by AI. But that was like, a number of years ago. Now it's completely different. It's not only adding AI agents to teams and the front office. It's all about thinking and memory, and that's what we didn't have a few years ago, but we have now. And who knows what's going to happen in the next couple of years.
Yes.
But my view is that AI can consume all the historic information you have and then predict what's going to happen or what is the best course of action. And that's where I think we landed with the roadmap that we were talking about 2 years ago, is understand, but also from a sales perspective or from a management perspective, it's all about revenue and return on investment. If it takes 5 days to be able to review documentation from potential clients, AI can now do that in minutes. The only thing that stops you is the speed at which your client uploads documents or whatever evidence they need. But all of that can be reviewed in seconds, and then you're moving forward. So I think there was a divide with regards to the return on investment, but also I think something that most organizations ignore is the human involvement behind the scenes. So whether it's IT, it's risk, it's compliance, all of these things can be done within seconds as long as there is there is enough guidance, but also governance around it. What we need to do before you embark on an AI transformation project is understand what the end goal is, but also internally, what is the governance structure? Because that is the fundamental building block for any AI organization. You can't go from pilot to live without having to understand that. The key thing for me is, what is if it gets wrong? What are the compliance and what are the governance structures, and what is it when AI gets it wrong? What is it you do? And that's what you need to do. You need to build that from day one. If it goes wrong, what do we do? Rather than waiting for AI to go live and then realize actually you have all these edge cases, which causes more drift.
So coming from a highly regulated payment service, banking, pension, it's all about designing this with absolute guardrails, governance in place. And hence you needed to see everything, the impact that will have from every dimensions. You also did something interesting, which I have been working with multiple customers from NexgAI perspective, and it was uniquely world first, where you chose, instead of picking up something like, I don't know, IT Copilot or HR Copilot, you said, no, I want to go for customer as the first choice of area, because you wanted to see if this really had some real impact. Will it have the right kind of, if at all it is bringing some customer satisfactions? What was your thinking around it? We were working with other organizations, they were going with some other use cases. You said, no, you want to go for the game-changing areas where interactions, customer onboarding, customer services, everything to do with customers, you piloted and prioritized those ones first.
I think from an organization perspective and a brand perspective, it's all around you can talk about payments, but it's all about almost frictionless. So a customer wants to join or a customer has a complaint. We want to resolve that as soon as possible. So in order to do that and also build momentum within the organization, we need to show results. And the only results you can show immediately are customer feedback. So if a customer is onboarded within 10 minutes or is onboarded in 5 days, there's a big difference. So for me, it was in order to try and reduce that, but also be able to use AI to validate the information they're providing. So I think in the Middle East and where have you, if a customer uploads their passport or they update some documentation, how do you validate that person is who they say they are? But with with AI, you can pinpoint exactly where that individual is, where their business is, and using Google and whatever else, 100% confirm that that is the correct information. Whereas previously, you would have sales agents trawling the area and then validating the residents, the business, whereas you don't need that anymore. And AI helps to be able to make that transition much, much faster.
Yeah. I mean, there was some really true world first experiment we did using multimodal capabilities, looking into biometric understanding, lively understanding. These were the kind of early days of multimodal LLMs. We experimented with multilingual capabilities, both English and Arabic. And so you are absolutely right. And the use cases we picked up was predominantly customer centric, but bringing the efficiency and customer ease of uses was a priority. Brilliant. Going back from AFS, you then took your learnings, I guess, and then you are in the helm of transforming Smart Pension again in the same way. However, Smart Pension, I am guessing from outside in, must be highly regulated. So what kind of foundational capability you needed to do for Smart Pension when you are driving the AI transformation there right now?
So the pension industry is renowned to be very, very slow. And like you said, it's heavily regulated. So not only do we have our internal risk and compliance teams to answer to, but we also have the trustees. Because at the end of the day, we're on the hook for managing the investments, the returns, and so forth. So any decisions we make long term for somebody who's retiring, it could be catastrophic or it could be, it could be game changing. So what we embarked on was an evaluation of the whole scene across what it is we wanted to achieve and who could provide that. So at the end, we broke it up into different scenarios. So trying to pick best in breed. So we used AWS Connect in order for the voice and our customer interaction. And now we're in the planning of what's the next phase that we need to add to this. It's critical in the pension industry that each individual has a very good experience because you're on the cusp of your, drawing down on your pension or you're just starting off. You need to ensure that the investments that you make will provide the returns that that individual expects. So when you're managing people's money, it's slightly different to a bank because this is their future. Whereas in the bank, you're just putting your money in and you're hoping you'll get a return. Whereas with a pension, they are constantly monitoring the return on whatever they've invested. So it took some time for us to get to a point where internally compliance and risk and everyone else was on board, but also the trustees. And we're at the point where now, when we talk about AI, the trustees are aware in other areas of the country and also beyond what the returns are and what the challenges are. So we've had to factor those in. And I believe that we are now in a position where we can answer all of the questions from the trustees, but also be able to answer what the result is from the AI outcome.
So you establish the core principle of a highly regulated industry is AI needs to explain every decision it can augment or do thoroughly so that it stands the regulatory scrutiny, but also trustee scrutiny and all the stakeholders that involves. That was the fundamental requirement in a highly regulated industry. So how important it was about making this AI private. That's where we come. NexgAI is all about private GPT, private AI. So how important it was for you to think about sovereignty and privacy of these individuals as well as smart pension in general?
That was probably paramount in our decision, but not only in our decision, internally, the use of AI, there's a huge landscape of AI capabilities, whether it's Claude, whether it's Scribe, whether it's Tango, there's huge amounts. All of those were used in order for us to be able to move forward internally as well. So, engineering and product and marketing. So it was twofold, right? So one was the external vision of how AI will look using, with our end customers, but also internally, where there are probably 7 or 8 different scenarios or routes that we're taking internally in order to be able to enhance what we do today. And then on the other side, externally, with our members, how can we provide them with a better service? And I think I mentioned this at the beginning, right? So we have quite a lot of employers that require specific requirements. Previously, that would take probably 6 to 8 months in order to be able to deliver. With the help of AI and Claude Code and whatever else we use internally in Copilot, we're able to deliver that in a month and test it, and then it can go live. So not only are we trying to improve our customer experience, we're also trying to improve our employer improvement because
Experience.
experience. So if you have an employer who has, I don't know, say 5,000 employees, each of those employees may reach out to us. Core here is making sure that we can provide an experience not only for the employer but the employee at the same time, and that's what we're striving to.
Brilliant. So you're thinking about, again, being a pioneer, holistic approach to AI. You're thinking about a system of intelligence. There are obviously certain system of records needs to remain wherever it is. Employee needs to interact with that in a private ecosystem, and the customer ultimate goal is to improve customer service and efficiency, ease of doing business with smart pension. So brilliant. I know personally that you like cooking. If you think of AI metaphorically, what's the kind of similarity when you cook something? Because the data seems to be the ingredient. You may have pots and pans, which is basically a whole raft of best of the engine or cluster of CPU, GPU, and all of that. How do you get the best relevant and accurate results out of this? And what you have seen from your experience?
So if I draw an analogies, my view is that the two main things are the ingredients and the recipe. The recipe is something that you internally need to manage and tweak. The ingredients is create or selecting best in breed.
which is all side of data and how
Exactly.
best
Yeah.
you enable. Yes.
Yeah. You combine those, and you may not end up with what you want from day one, but it's all around tweaking. It's tweaking the ingredients and tweaking the seasoning and what have you, but also having a number of different businesses or teams sampling what it is you're trying to deliver. And for me, that's how it works.
It's like a restaurant, new restaurant you are building, and getting that.
Everyone needs to be included in order to validate whether or not you think this is going to work.
Do you how important in your experience is about having a clarity of intent, clarity of thoughts, clarity of objective and a purpose?
I think this is where maybe a lot of organizations fail initially. You do a POC, you put it into production, but you're basing your assumptions on that POC. So it could be 95% correct. But the thing is, in a regulated environment, that 5% can be damaging, both from reputational but also financial. So it's making sure that you've got the controls in place in order to validate when it goes wrong, because that's the key thing. If something goes wrong, you need to have something in place to ensure you manage that better. So in my mind, I believe that you cannot scale something on a pilot. You need to have the controls in place, and I believe human oversight is one thing which we always talk about with regards to AI, but it's understanding whether or not that's a bottleneck or whether or not it's actually helping.
Right. Um, Great. Coming back to how do you see a regulated industry like payment services or pension, banking, etc., versus AI's role? How do you see that evolving going forward?
I think once we have the guardrails in place, I think you feel that individuals will be more confident with AI. And what will be the one thing they focus on are the edge cases and the more complex cases. The rudimentary, once you agree that this is the process, that will just be done. I think the day-to-day will just get done, and all people we were left with is the more complex situations which AI didn't believe or didn't identify. But then you feed those back into AI and you'll find those complex situations will also be resolved, and then you're left with even minor edge cases that require your attention. So that means the productivity will go up much faster. And if you take for us a simple view of a call center, instead of managing the everyday questions, it will turn to have 5 or 10 questions that are edge cases that we need to resolve. All the others are managed, which means your throughput's much faster and your customers are happier.
So you are envisioning an environment where most of the things are done by those are rudimentary, specific standard operating process in a pension world or in a payment services or extended due diligence or customers, EDD, CDD, even underwriting. Most of them will be done by AI. Human capability and competency comes into role where there is really complex scenarios. Hence, we all have to move up in the chain, not just do simple things, but more complex things. I guess, how do you see next 5 years looks like in this beyond? Is it going to be level 5? So there is only no human or some human, as we move into this AI first world?
I think I would say it's very difficult to predict what's going to happen in the next 5 years, in my eyes, because where we are today, was almost unimaginable.
When we
Like I
started,
said,
yeah.
yeah, it had, you had an imagination that this is what you wanted AI to do. But where
Yes,
we are today is AI is delivering that.
yes,
If we go back, the people who succeeded in the last 3 or 4 years were the cleverest in the room. Now the dimension is changed. It's what question do you ask? The people with the biggest imagination will be the people who will succeed. And the key is what question do you ask on that prompt? And it's boundless because
yes,
I thought this maybe, three odd years ago, is that where AI is coming is you're only limited by your imagination. But we're beyond that now because everything that you imagine today is possible. It's
yes.
those who are looking forward in the future to say this is what we want to do is 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 going to be the thing which will deliver everything that you require. I think there's a mind shift that's required with AI. Is that AI is a tool currently, but it'll be a colleague in the next 5 years or less. So
Yes.
the systems that plan, execute, adopt multi-step workflows with human intervention, that's moving into production, but there's going to be less human intervention in order for that to happen. I think in the next 5 years, we want to win organizations adopted AI first. Won't be those who have adopted AI today. It's those organizations that have learned fastest how to trust it and govern it well. I think that's the key thing. Industry, well, I'm not just talking about finance and so forth, but it's about those organizations who've trusted AI, but also they stop treating AI as governance and compliance and exercise, but they treat it as like a strategic capability. So if you embark on an AI program today, it's requirements, it's budget, it's delivery. But it doesn't stop there because AI is not the same as a normal delivery of any project. It's something that consistency consistency requires investment, people, and oversight. And I think where you have an organization that has a conversation where the organization risk appetite actually sits because AI will test it. So you can have a risk appetite today, but in a few years' time, AI will test it. So you need to be prepared. And I think you need to invest in your internal skills to interrogate it and challenge it and evolve it. But the one thing you cannot do is you cannot procure it and then sit back and hope that it's going to deliver what you want because it needs constant care.
I think golden words and really relevant in a highly regulated industry or for any industry for that instance. Your experience of doing AI transformation, not just talking about it, far earlier than many would have touched, going back to almost 2.5 to 3 years you have been in this journey. So thank you for trusting us as a trusted partner. Thank you for sharing. This is incredible journey, and thank you.
Okay.
And I hope we can continue to partner in this journey. Thank you.
100%. I believe in NexgAI. I have been for years trailblazers in this and delivering. So, and you can see the fruits of your labor. And I truly believe that we will have a long relationship. And thank you very much.